Okay, it is now 3 o'clock, and I will turn this over to the mayor.
Good afternoon, and welcome to a special emergency meeting being held by a teleconference of the Santa Monica City Council for Thursday, March 19th, 2020. We've been called to order at this point. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Morena.
Here.
Councilmember Himmerich.
Here.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Winter.
Here.
Councilmember Hara.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Day. And Mayor McCune.
I'm here, so we have 6 of our 7 council members. We're hoping to have a full council for this very soon. A reminder that this being an emergency city council meeting, any public comment is restricted only to the items listed on the agenda. And before we start, being that this is an emergency meeting, under Government Code Section 54956.5A1, the council must first determine that an emergency exists. Under that same provision, an emergency is defined as a work stoppage, crippling activity, or other activity that severely impairs public health, safety, or both. Now, COVID-19 clearly meets the definition of emergency, but technically and on the record, we need to have the council approve the existence of an emergency now at the very beginning of the meeting before we get into the substance of the meeting. So would anybody like to make a motion that we have an emergency?
I move that we have an emergency and declare its existence.
Second.
That has been moved by Councilmember Himmelrich and seconded by Councilmember Davis. That will require a roll call vote if the clerk would please.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Day, are you here? Councilmember Hara.
Yes.
Councilmember Winter.
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Himmerich.
Yes.
Councilmember Morena.
Yes.
And Mayor McCune.
Yes. And I do see something that might be Mayor Pro Tem O'Day.
And I'm on too. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Day, we're voting on whether there exists a state of emergency that justifies this meeting. We've already done the roll. Would you like to add your vote? Mayor Pro Tem O'Day?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
So that is a unanimous vote of the City Council that authorizes the emergency status of this meeting. We have only 3 items on the agenda today, and the first is the probably most important. If the clerk would call that.
The first item is adoption of a resolution on emergency proclamation regarding coronavirus event.
Loman, I assume we have no requests to speak.
There are none allowed. No. We have received no comments.
We'll go to the staff end for the staff presentation on this.
Mayor and members of the City Council, as well as the members of the community that are listening in, this is Rick Cole, the City Manager. Under the city's municipal code, when a fire, flood, earthquake, or other natural or man-made disaster happens, under both state law and practices, emergency operations commence under the direction of the city's emergency services director. Under our municipal code, that's the city manager, that's me, and my job has been since the COVID-19 emergency became an emergency in our city when the county declared it, and then when we declared it on March 13th, as the city attorney will spell out in more detail, we moved quickly to stand up our emergency operations across the city structure. You're going to hear directly from our current Emergency Operations Center Director, Lindsay Call. And before that, though, I want to turn it over to Katie Lichtig. She's the Assistant City Manager, and She and the city attorney, Lane Dilg, and I have really been the three people most responsible for providing leadership, and it's been my responsibility, as the city attorney will outline momentarily, to put into effect a series of emergency declarations, beginning with the declaration of an emergency on March 13th. And as the city attorney will also detail, all of those orders are subject to city council approval within 7 days. That's why we're having today's meeting. Katie?
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate the opportunity to begin this presentation. First, by thanking all of the staff. Every city department has gone up, above, and beyond to dedicate themselves to serving the community of Santa Monica and to protect each other in this very difficult time. I'd like to identify that we've had a slew of people who have jumped in ways that they probably never anticipated during the course of their career for this unprecedented event. I'd like to now turn it over to Lindsay Call, who is our Emergency Operations Center Director and who orchestrates the day-to-day operations that are going on to serve the community of Santa Monica. So I'll turn it over to Lindsay. And Lindsay probably has to unmute herself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. This is Lindsay Call, Chief Resilience Officer of the Office of Emergency Management, serving as EOC Director, Emergency Operations Center Director. The City's Office of Emergency Management has activated the Emergency Operations Center to manage this regional disaster. We are closely tracking the developing situation and implementing guidance from federal, state, and LA County agencies. City offices and most facilities are closed to the public, including City Hall and libraries. The Emergency Operations Center has implemented code enforcement operations to ensure pier, gyms, theaters, cultural and entertainment venues, salons have suspended operations, and that all restaurants and bars have transitioned to delivery or takeout operations only. The Emergency Operations Center has been in close contact with our local hospitals, nonprofit agencies, and critical retail vendors to identify their response needs and support them during this challenging time. The safety of city personnel is one of our top priorities. We have expanded our existing designated infection control officer team to ensure staff health questions regarding COVID-19 are promptly addressed. We have also created an internal staff website with all directives, guidance, forms, and frequently asked questions to ensure our staff teams have the information they need to help our community get through this pandemic. We want to ensure our community has the latest updates on safety messages and changes to City of Santa Monica operations. Here are the following ways any community member can access coronavirus information. www.santamonica.gov/coronavirus is the official COVID-19 webpage for the City of Santa Monica. It is updated daily and a great resource for all changes. We added a GIS map with all restaurants in Santa Monica to this website that are providing food delivery or pickup services for residents. We are also working to add other Santa Monica service providers and retailers that are providing the essential services and goods to our community members. We also have info@santamonica.gov, which is a specific COVID-19 email address. We are monitoring it daily and are responding to questions Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have a text message capability through SM Alerts that will provide key coronavirus messages daily. To sign up for this service, text SMCOVID to 888-777. We have established a COVID-19 Santa Monica hotline. Members of the public can call 310-458-8400 Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to get answers to local questions regarding this emergency. This has been important as it has relieved pressure off our 911 dispatchers and has given the public an opportunity to ask all types of questions related to coronavirus. Our team is working to be responsive and provide the best customer service we can. City TV Channel 777 on local cable is also providing COVID-19 public service announcements. In addition, we have updated message boards, printed signs, and deployed these around town to make sure that Santa Monica residents have necessary communications resources. Finally, we are fortunate to work in an incredible giving community. On our coronavirus website, we have set up a What You Can Do volunteerism site to find information on connecting with neighbors and providing assistance to our local nonprofits. One of the most important ways our community can provide assistance is by following LA County Department of Public Health guidance on keeping your distance from others, staying at home as much as possible, especially if you're ill. We're all in this together. This is a serious situation, and our success during this emergency requires collaboration, patience with the dynamic situation, and enhanced focus on our individual and community health and safety. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindsay, for that up-to-the-minute report from our Emergency Operations Center, much of which is operating virtually. And we are working to expand our information services to keep the hotline running and to make sure that we're getting back promptly to people who email us at info@santamonica.gov. Finally, Mayor and members of the City Council, as you know, the County of Los Angeles and the City of Los Angeles are moving toward a strategy called Safer at Home. We've been giving advice all week for people over 65 and those with chronic health conditions to stay at home as much as possible. That doesn't mean they can't access medical services or get food or do the kind of things that are necessary to leave the home. But as much as possible, anything that is discretionary, we have been encouraging senior citizens and those with health conditions to avoid any unnecessary leaving of the home. The city is joining, our city is joining LA and the County of LA to encourage and to direct people of all ages to do the same. They're calling this Safer at Home. This is not a time for panic, but a time for common sense. We're hoping that people will avoid any unnecessary public comment. Doesn't mean you can't walk your dog, doesn't mean you can't go to the park, but it does mean you need to practice physical distancing of at least 6 feet from people around you, and use common sense and not leave your home unless you have critical work or critical errands to keep you healthy in your home. Mayor, thank you for this opportunity to present a quick update, and your staff is ready to answer any questions on what we've just provided before you turn to the city attorney and the ratification process of the emergency orders.
Thank you, Rick and Lindsay and Katie and Council. Before we get to the possibility for future direction, the immediate action before us has to do with the resolution ratifying the executive order and declaring the existence of the local emergency, including 5 supplements and revised supplements. So do any council members have questions for staff on the resolution that is before us first?
Mayor, if I could, it might be helpful for me to give a brief report on that resolution and the supplements to ensure that all in the community are aware of the content of what you are, what is put before you for approval.
for. So certainly go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to thank the city manager, the assistant city manager, and your emergency operations center director. From my perspective as the city attorney, I have had the opportunity to see your incredibly hardworking and dedicated staff working 24/7, doing everything that they can to put forward the best possible response for our community. I particularly want to take this opportunity to show respect for and gratitude for our first responders, your police department, your fire department, the motor coach operators providing public transportation, your public works department, and all of the departments across the city. The attorneys in my office are working to turn out orders, to respond to events, and to identify any issue we can where we can be of service to the community in this unprecedented global health emergency. What we have before you today is a resolution to ratify actions that have been taken by the city manager in the last 7 days. So as I believe you're aware, we globally, nationally, at the state level and at the local level, we have been responding to an outbreak of the respiratory disease known as novel coronavirus or COVID-19. There have been a number of different declarations that have come down. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has been issuing public health guidance. The World Health Organization on March 11th declared a pandemic. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors and the Department of Public Health declared a local public health emergency and a local emergency on March 4th. The governor of the state of California declared a state of emergency on March 4th. And on March 13th, the President of the United States declared a national emergency and stated that the federal government would make $50 billion in emergency funding available to assist state and local governments in preventing the spread of and addressing the effects of COVID-19. On the evening of March 13th, 2013, your city manager did issue a proclamation declaring a local emergency. We are covered by the County of Los Angeles's prior declaration of a local emergency, which occurred on March 4th. That does apply to our jurisdiction as well. For a couple of reasons, however, we did declare a local emergency at the city level as well. The primary reasons for that are to assure the availability of any federal resources that may become available and to ensure cost recovery to the greatest extent possible for your emergency operations that are occurring right now. The other reason is that the proclamation of local emergency allows the city manager, acting as the Director of Emergency Services, to take steps to protect life and property within the city. And so on March 13th, the city manager, acting as Director of Emergency Services, declared a local emergency. That is before you for ratification tonight. On the morning of March 14th, we took a precautionary measure and issued a second proclamation that complied with digital signature requirements. We were not able to do that on the evening of the 13th because of the way we were functioning, so we did put that in place on the 14th out of an abundance of caution. On March 14th, we took immediate action to try to work against any housing displacement or negative effects for residential tenants in our community by placing a temporary moratorium on residential evictions that were based on non-payment of rent for reasons related to COVID-19. We did revise and update that first supplement to the executive order on March 18th, 2020. And so what is before you for ratification today with respect to evictions is a temporary moratorium on Ellis Act evictions and on residential and commercial evictions that are related to non-payment of rent for reasons related to COVID-19. So residential tenants may not be evicted under this order if the tenant provides within 30 days of the date that rent is due notice in writing and documentation that non-payment of rent is due to being sick with COVID-19 or caring for a household or family member who is sick with COVID-19, layoff, loss of hours, or other income reduction resulting from business closure or economic or employer impacts of COVID-19, compliance with public health authority recommendations related to COVID-19, extraordinary out-of-pocket medical expenses, or child care needs arising from school closures related to COVID-19. Tenants also may not be evicted under this temporary moratorium if the eviction is a no-fault eviction and any member of the household is sick, in isolation, or under quarantine. We have taken the additional step, and we are one of the first in the state to do this, to say that residential units may not be removed from the rental market pursuant to the Ellis Act while this executive order is in effect. The basis for that is that residential displacement in this moment creates public health risks, both for those tenants in the units who are displaced and also for those with whom they might interact in searching for housing in this environment. We also put in place an order that places a temporary moratorium on eviction of commercial tenants if the tenant provides notice within 30 days that rent is due, that non-payment of rent is due to lost business income as a result of a reduction in or closure of hours or operations, increase in costs and labors, or other delays or interruptions related to COVID-19. That temporary moratorium on evictions is intended to ensure that people are able to make it through a health emergency in a way that does not create disruption to their housing or to their business, such that it creates additional public health issues for our community. On March 15th, we took the step of closing the pier to the public, effective at 6 a.m. on Monday, March 16th. We had taken other measures to that time before that time to try to reduce the attractiveness of the pier, but with people still on the pier on that date, inconsistent with social distancing and without true mechanisms to be able to impose social distancing on that pier, we did take the step of closing the pier deck to the public. That was cleared with the Coastal Commission informally in advance. On March 16th, we also, consistent with the City of Los Angeles, issued an executive order closing the following businesses to the public: bars and nightclubs except for delivery or pickup, restaurant and retail food facilities except for delivery, pickup, or drive-through, movie theaters, live performance venues, bowling alleys and arcades, gyms and fitness centers, and businesses providing physical health and beauty services that are not medical or directed by medical professionals. We did exempt from that order cafeterias, commissaries, and restaurants in hospitals, nursing homes, grocery stores, pharmacies, and food banks, so those do remain open to the public. And we also ensured in that March 16th, 2020 order that trucks and other vehicles that deliver grocery items to grocery stores are exempt from any limitations on their delivery hours. On March 17th, we took further steps to try to address issues that were arising in the community related to parking, including suspending preferential parking regulations, and articulating that street sweeping will not be conducted unless essential for health and safety, and therefore parking citations associated with street sweeping will not be issued. At the same time, we allowed oversized vehicles to deviate from their previously regulated routes. We extended all interim zoning ordinances. We lifted all laws and regulations that establish plan review deadlines or authorize automatic planning approvals. We permitted public safety, hospital, clinic, and emergency shelter uses in all districts, and allowed the Director of the Department of Planning and Community Development or his designee to approve any necessary waivers of development standards, design review, parking and access requirements, and sign standards, again, for public safety, hospital, clinic, or emergency shelter uses. On March 18th, we took additional measures to allow the Big Blue Bus to suspend fares in order to enable rear door boarding for the protection of motor coach operators and the passengers on board. We suspended late fees for resource recovering and recycling and water utility, parking citation, and other fee and taxes bills, including transient occupancy tax bills. So we suspended the late fees for those bills. We also allowed parking in green zones, and we suspended vehicle towing for abandoned vehicles, expired registrations, and unpaid parking citations. So these are the orders that are now before you for ratification. Should you choose to adopt the resolution that ratifies the proclamation of local emergency and the supplemental orders that have been issued thereto, that resolution would also enable the city manager to continue to take steps necessary to protect life and property in this local emergency. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but the resolution before you would be a single vote to ratify the declaration of local emergency and the many steps that have been taken to date by supplemental executive order to try to ensure public health, the protection of life and property, and the ability to live in these unusual times in a way that is consistent with our community's needs. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Well, thank you, City Attorney Dill. And you were very gracious in acknowledging the hard work of the City Manager's Office and the departments under the City Manager's oversight. I just want to acknowledge the work that you and your staff have put in legally to make the document that before us have the requisite findings and be legally enforceable. The community may not see that work. They'll see the outcome of it. But I just want to let you know as mayor how much I appreciate it, and I'm sure my colleagues on the council do as well. Thank you. Council members, at this point, with all those clarifications, are there any questions of staff about the resolution? If there are not, well, I do have a question from Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and staff, for all that you're doing. We know it's a Herculean effort, and it's just incredible, people coming together and the work that's being done. I just wanted to ask a clarifying question, since the resolution includes one about the Santa Monica Pier, and I want to avoid any perceived conflict. Do I need to recuse myself on this item?
Yes, Councilmember, we would ask that you recuse yourself in this moment by dropping off the call, and then we can text and bring you back into the call. We will take a separate vote by council on whether the second supplement to the executive order should be included in this resolution, and that is the supplement related to the Santa Monica Pier. So, Councilmember, if we could ask you to drop off briefly to allow for that vote in your absence.
Great. I'll step off now to avoid any perceived conflict with my family business on the Santa Monica Pier.
Well, thank you very much.
Councilmember.
Seeing no other questions, I will turn virtually to the city clerk and ask if there are any public requests to speak.
We have not received any public comment.
So the public hearing on this is opened and closed, and the matter is now before the council for discussion and action.
And Mayor, if I could ask that you begin with any discussion of the second supplemental order, which closes the pier to the public. The thing I should have said in the beginning, we have proposed that all of these orders be extended through April 30th. Those dates could be changed by the city manager or by you in the interim, but for now we are asking for extension of all of these orders through April 30th.
Then on the question of the pier alone, because we'll deal with that and then we'll be able to bring Councilmember Moreno back, I have a question from Councilmember Winter.
Actually, I was just going to move that we include the second supplemental order in our overall resolution approving everything involving this emergency ordinances.
Second.
That has been moved by Councilmember Winter. Unfortunately, I can't identify the voices who did the second.
Anna, second.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor from Councilmember Winter. It has been seconded by Councilmember. Also, they'll have a request to speak from Councilmember O'Day, or Mayor Pro Tem O'Day, rather. It looks like that may have been taken care of by the motion. And so the same from Councilmember Himmelrich. So it seems like there's a pretty good sense we want to move forward. There being no further discussion, we'll take a roll call vote on including the peer aspects in the overall motion that's yet to come.
Councilmember Himmelrich,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Winter,
Yes.
Councilmember Hara,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Day,
Yes.
and Mayor McKim.
Yes, and so by 6-0 vote of the City Council, the peer aspects will be included in the main resolution. That allowed the recusal of Councilmember Morena, who may now be brought back into the conference. Somebody on staff might text him.
This is Katie, and I already have.
And should we wait a moment for him to come back in? I suppose that's usually been our practice. Once Councilman Morena returns, is discussion.
Okay.
Good. Or before the council then is discussion on the resolution as a whole. Are there any requests to speak on that?
There are not.
I do not see any requests to speak. Would somebody care to make the motion? Oh, I'm sorry. The city clerk was referring to public comment on that.
There is no public comment.
Councilmember Himmelrich, is that a new request to speak I'm seeing from you?
Yes, it is. I have to commend all of our staff on what a great job they did on this, and I am particularly commending our staff for their openness in putting in additional protections for tenants, both commercial and residential, including the Ellis Act, which I have not seen, I don't think, in a single statute. And as part of my day job, I do this. I'd also like to say, as somebody who is over 65 and had a stem cell transplant in 2006, so therefore is at risk, that the city has really functioned in a way that has made it possible for me to stay in place. I haven't been out since last Thursday, and I want to thank you all for making that possible. And I guess on that note, I move that we ratify the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second, Councilmember Hara.
Thank you for identifying yourself. That makes my life a lot easier in a dual meeting. So we have a motion by Councilmember Himmelrich, which has been seconded by Councilmember Hara. Is there any request for further discussion? And I do not see any, so would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem O'Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Hara,
Yes.
Councilmember Winter,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Himmelrich,
Yes.
Councilmember Morena,
Yes.
and Mayor McKim.
Yes. And so the resolution is adopted by unanimous vote of the City Council. Thank you. I want to just point out, we are the policy makers for the city. We're in an extraordinary situation where we're relying even more than usual on our staff to implement our policy. And I'm very gratified to note that in all the things that have been done so far, our policies have been followed and expanded in pretty wonderful ways, including what Councilmember Himmelrich said about acknowledging the Ellis Act threats, the small business threats. At this point, I think it's pretty clear that our policies are being followed by staff as we move forward. But if there's any direction from the council as to things we might do, this would be the time to offer it. And I do not see any, so therefore, if the clerk would move us on to the 13 items, please. Calling on the city clerk for the 13 items, please.
I'm reading that thing. Okay, 13A is request of Councilmember Davis. That's the council authorize up to $10,000 from the council contingency account to Meals on Wheels to support the organization's efforts in delivering meals to vulnerable seniors who are at risk amid COVID-19. And you have no public comment.
Councilmember Davis is pretty obvious, but would you care to make any introductory comment?
Yeah, I think I just want to say that I've been in contact with Chris Baca, the executive director of Meals on Wheels. They have seen, as you might expect, a tremendous increase in the number of requests for meals over the last 10 days, and especially with people trying to shelter in place. Service that brings food to people is obviously on the front lines of fighting hunger in this difficult time. So, my hope is that you'll all agree that this is a worthy way to give them some assistance in this time.
Would you like to move that?
I would like to move that.
Is there a second?
Councilmember Hara.
Councilmember Hara has the fastest microphone button in the room. So it's moved by Councilmember Davis and seconded by Councilmember Hara. Are there any requests to speak further on this item? Are there any public comments? You said there were not, right?
That's correct.
We can go to a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Hara,
Yes.
Councilmember Winter,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Hemmerich,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yes.
Mayor McKeown.
Yes, so that request is approved by a 7-0 unanimous vote of the City Council and moves us on to 13B.
Item 13B is request of Councilmember Davis that council authorize up to $10,000 from the council contingency account to the West Side Food Bank to support the organization's efforts in distributing a high volume of food to people in need amid COVID-19. And you have no public comment.
And again, Councilmember Davis, I think it's pretty clear this was a good idea. I thank you for bringing it forward. Any introductory comment?
Yes, I should have done this in the last item as well. I do want to thank staff for arranging to put this on an emergency basis, because obviously things are moving quickly. And I just want to say that I've been in contact with Bruce Rankin, the executive director of the food bank, and he is very grateful and said that this will allow them to buy their allotment of food that they were not planning on buying probably until May or June. Again, because there's been an uptick in demand for their services. So I would like to move the item that we give $10,000 to the West Side Food Bank out of council discretionary funds.
Is there a second?
Second, Winter.
Councilmember Hara, I would like to second with a comment as well.
Councilmember Hara, there's already been a second by Councilmember Winter, but you may comment.
I wanted to make sure that on item 13B, I don't even remember if item 13A had it, but is this only for locals? I just wanted some clarification. Well, when you say locals, I'm not sure. Both Meals on Wheels and the West Side Food Bank do not just serve Santa Monica, but they also serve people who work in Santa Monica, that sort of thing. So we could certainly, I believe, direct them that this is for services to people who are working or living in Santa Monica. I don't think that would be a problem. Okay, I would like to move that friendly amendment. Sure, that's fine.
And could you please clarify what that friendly amendment is for the record?
That we provide these services to what we call our locals, which is our residents and employees who come from outside to work here, so that we can assist them. Oh, could I add one more list to what you've described as locals, which would be students? We do have a number of students who go to college here in Santa Monica. Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
And council members, just because we're operating under emergency conditions, so are these agencies. This is with the understanding that, to the extent possible in tracking the funds, we're not going to be putting a tag on every time. Is that understood?
Understood. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we have a motion by Councilmember Davis, which is seconded by Councilmember Winter, including a friendly amendment made by Councilmember Hara. I see no further requests to speak on this issue, so would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Moreno,
Yes.
Councilmember Himmerich,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Winter,
Yes.
Councilmember Hara,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Day,
Yes.
and Mayor McKim.
Yes, and so by an unanimous 7-0 vote of the council, that request is likewise approved. Council, this is an unusual meeting, as was noted at the outset, as we're all very well aware, since we're not even sitting in the same room together. Before we do adjourn, which is the next thing on the agenda, I just want to call on either the city manager or the city clerk to make sure that we have done all the business we need to do at this emergency meeting to allow staff to move forward.
Mayor, this is City Manager Rick Cole. Absolutely, and we deeply appreciate the council's support and trust for the actions that we've taken. As you pointed out, we have really tried to not only faithfully carry out the policy objectives and priorities that the City Council has set, but to reflect the very special values of this community, which is to protect everyone, including the most vulnerable. And again, our team is proud to serve this community, and we are doing it around the clock, 7 days a week, and we'll do so not only during the emergency, but in the months and years ahead, because the social and economic impacts of the public health emergency are so profound. It will be a long time recovering, but we're going to do it by collaboration and teamwork. And again, thank you, Mayor and members of the council, for your support and your trust.
The City Attorney Dill, have we accomplished what you need?
We have, and Mayor, the one comment I would make is that the city manager, you have given the city manager authority to continue to issue orders as necessary. While the emergency proclamation had to be ratified within 7 days of issuance, future emergency orders are to be ratified as soon as practicable. So we will be back to you for ratification of any future orders issued. It will not be on a timetable certain. It will be on a timetable established basically and dictated by the emergency and the emergency response operations. And we certainly will be communicating with the community about when any council meeting when and shall occur, and we will continue to communicate to the community about the efforts we are taking to ensure an effective emergency response.
Thank you, City Attorney. That brings up something I was going to try to deal with before we adjourn. We usually announce when our next meeting is going to be. We have informally, at least, somebody has their mic on there. We have informally, at least, decided that the idea of having a meeting next Tuesday is not practical because of the emergency. Do we need to take a vote to announce that we are canceling a regularly scheduled council meeting? Or does the emergency resolution do that for us?
Would look to the city clerk. I believe that meeting has already been canceled. We are working to, so that meeting has already been canceled, Mayor. There are any number of city staff who are currently teleworking and continuing the ordinary work of the city. We do hope to have regular council meetings at some point again. At this point in the emergency response, we are focused on emergency operations, but we will be back to you. The April 14th meeting is still currently scheduled, and we are in an evolving situation, and we will continue to do everything we can to serve the community, both in emergency response and in the ongoing business of the city.
Believe me, we fully appreciate the difficulty it poses for our city staff. Coming up, so understood that the city council meeting for the 24th will not be held. At this time, we do believe we'll be back for a city council meeting in some format on April 14th. And of course, if emergencies continue, we may have to convene in the short term. With that, I'll adjourn this emergency meeting of Santa Monica City Council on March 19th, 2020, again with tremendous thanks to our staff for the work they're doing, and also our heartfelt concern for the residents of this city. We know it's a difficult time. Remember, we're all in this together. Stick together and stay well. Thank you.